Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Coming back at you with some Adventure Synchron. Definitely very eager to play this deck, as always as ever. Synchroing is, for those who are somehow unfamiliar with this fact, my favorite summoning mechanic by far. It's not even close. I absolutely love Synchro monsters, so playing a deck with all Synchros in the extra deck is a pretty easy sell for me. I'm actually still relatively new to Adventure Synchron. I've only been playing it for just a few months now, despite the fact that a build like this, Sans, Diabel, and Poplar stuff has been available in the game for quite some time, so... But as always as ever, I have just had a blast playing it. This season, I kind of had this shift in mentality where part of it is due to being busy with other stuff, but also I think, I'm really looking more to pursue decks that I'm having fun playing as opposed to covering what I think is all the best decks and like sweating to get up to master as quickly as I can each season. I've kind of hit that turning point recently. Not to say I don't care about competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Or that I'll never play in a tournament again. But I mean, as far as official tournaments go, we just haven't had anything. Oh, Challenger Cups. I could make a whole other video about that, and this is where I put my Challenger Cup pricing from over almost a year ago now, if I had any. But anyway, so Adventure Synchron. Let me address some of the nuances to this build that you don't see in necessarily every single build, because this build is pretty much card for card similar to what I've been playing the past couple of seasons, but aside from maybe adding like a Snake Eye, an extended Snake Eye package in the remaining 10 cards, as well as a couple of other hand traps, I really don't know that there's much else I would change about a build like this, honestly. I know you could also integrate the Super Heavy Samurai engine. That would actually probably be the first thing I'd do. Because, like, as far as playing Snake Eye stuff, like Ash and Flamberge, like, we don't have any Link monsters to go into, so the value that engine gets is definitely decreased by it being a lot more situational when you can use Flamberge as a material, right? But maybe Super Heavy Samurai. We'll see. Anyway, so... let's see, stuff that this build does that not every adventure build does. Actually, the Snake Eye stuff is, pretty, I don't want to say unique. There are a lot of Adventure Synchron builds out there, of the ones that are out there, that are playing a Snake Eye Diabel Star package, but in particular, I am using it over the spell Synchro Overtake. There's definitely pros and cons to both. But the main thing that I like about Diabel Star and Poplar over Synchro Overtake, there's actually two things. One is very minor, one's a little bit more major. The very minor thing is that Synchro Overtake, in order to special summon the Jet Synchron from your deck, does require you to play Jet Warrior in your extra deck. This is fairly minor because Jet Warrior is not a horrible card, and honestly, we do have flex spots in the extra, Shen definitely being the main one. You could absolutely cut Shen. Dawn Dragster being another, but this card actually does come up a decent bit, so, but Shen you could definitely cut and would not miss it at all. So, the major reason is, honestly, that I like having these non-tuner bodies of Poplar and Diabel Star. They do just open up a lot of Synchro plays that Synchro Overtake would not necessarily get you, right? Because Synchro Overtake can only ever summon out the Jet Synchron. But the Diabel Star in Poplar, with the bonfires, not only lead to Jet Synchron, of course, thanks to the original Sinful Spoils, but are also, again, in and of themselves, relevant non-tuner bodies. And listen, when it comes to this deck, this might be a bit of a surprise, but non-tuners are really the most important factor, because you will not be hurting for tuners in this deck. But it's really going to be more often about, do I have a good non-tuner body to be able to go into, right? So that's kind of the major thing that we focus on here, is less Overtake, more Snake Eye, Diabel Star, Sinful Spoils package, etc. I know not every build plays Junk Servant, but I really like Junk Servant. It makes going to the Hyper Librarian so much easier, and it's really easy to grab off of the Jet Synchron search. Now, granted, you can't revive Jet Synchron the same turn you search for a Junk Servant off its effect, but you also don't really need to revive Jet Synchron at all for the combo line of this deck. The combo line for this deck, by the way, if you're if you've never seen a Synchron build play out before, is we are looking to triple hand rip our opponent. We do one hand rip with Omega, then we use Dissipator to bring back Omega and do another hand rip, and then we do the third one with Trishula while having at least 2 negates on board, those being the Dissipator and then an Omni negate in the form of Baron. But we also often end on the Majestic Star Dragon during the opponent's turn off of Crimson Dragon as well. So that's kind of the main idea. Also, we are summoning the Junk Speeder off of the Excel Stardust effect, which means that it is going to be unaffected, and we will see an example of some of those lines played out here momentarily. A lot of this stuff, though, is pretty standard. I mean, I think 2 of each Synchron is pretty standard. You really don't need 3. The only one I might go 3 on is 3 Jet Synchron, because it is often one of your combo starters, but otherwise, 2 of each is definitely fine. This is a 2-card combo deck. This deck does not have any 1-card combo lines, which is probably its greatest weakness. You might think that going second is this deck's greatest weakness, but it's actually not. Surprisingly, this deck, it was definitely a surprise to me the first time I played it. It can play through a lot, and a lot of the ways it can play through stuff is with the help of Black Rose Dragon. For example, if you open like Reborn Tengu plus Rev Synchron, that's an easy Black Rose right there that still leaves you with a body on board to be able to make plays with. But yeah, for the most part, like I said, this build hasn't really changed, nor has the way that we play it. An excellent Tenpai counter, by the way. This deck loves to go first, and so having a prominent deck in the meta that will always let this deck go first definitely does make it a not too bad of a pick here. I'll go ahead and break down the list card by card. I don't remember when the last time I did that for this particular deck is, so let's just make sure that we all are familiar with what is in the build before we start taking a look at this gameplay here. So we are on 1 Psyframe Driver, 2 Jet Synchron, 1 Snake Eyes Poplar, 3 Maxi, 2 Psyframe Gear Gamma, 2 Assault Synchron, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Water Enchantress for the Temple, 2 Revolution Synchron, 1 Junk Servant, 3 Reborn Tengu, 2 Stardust Synchron, 1 Stardust Trail, 1 Wandering Griffin Rider, 3 Diabell Star the Black Witch, 1 Foolish Burial, 3 Tuning, just got 2 different artworks there, but it's 3 total Tuning, 1 Stardust Illumination, 3 Small World, 3 Rite of Armistier, 2 Bonfire, 1 Original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye, 1 Synchro Rumble! We got 1 Dracoback the Rightable Dragon, 1 Fateful Adventure, 2 Called by the Grave, and then 1 Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils. That is going to be it for the main deck. For the extra, we are on 1 TG Hyper Librarian, 1 Excel Synchron, 1 Junk Speeder, 1 Stardust Charge Warrior, 1 Black Rose Dragon, 1 FA Dawn Dragster, 1 Stardust Dragon, 1 Psyframe Lord Omega, 1 Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, 1 Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier, 1 Virtual World QB Shenshen, 1 Majestic Star Dragon, 1 Baron de Fleur, 1 Bestial Dissipator, and then finally 1 Crimson Dragon. That'll be it for our list. Let's watch this gameplay. Okay, our first opponent here, as you can see, is going to be on Runix Stun. It's been a long time since I've encountered this particular variant of Runix Stun. With some interesting text, such as Card Scanner here. It's not the most typical, but interesting nevertheless. So let's go ahead and take a look at this duel here. This will be a good game to show off for how a turn 1 combo line likes to play out a lot of the time. Alright, so we are going to be taking the first turn here, and got a really good opening hand. We have the Gamma to help us out with our first few plays here if needed. We've got a Small World, reveal Maxi, and then Rev Synchron for Jet Synchron. If you're wondering how to use Small World in this deck, your number 1 bridge is most often going to be Rev Synchron. It's level 3, it's Earth, it's a machine, and those are most often going to be the factors that you're looking for the Rev Synchron. Now, here, I already opened the Water Enchantress, so if I have access to an adventure line, the other thing that I want is the Jet Synchron. Hence, I went Small World for C, Rev Synchron into Jet Synchron. Again, keeping the Gamma in case our opponent has Ash Blossom or Maxi or something in response to any of these first couple of plays here. Excuse me. So, Water Enchantress for the Rite of Armistier for the token, and the Fateful Adventure. I'll normal Jet Synchron to grab the Dracoback. Then, of course, we're going to Fateful for the Griffin Rider, sending the Dracoback. I'll still equip Dracoback, even though this Fateful, or rather this token is not going to stay around. And then we'll special out the Griffin Rider. Yeah, we're not looking to keep the adventure stuff on our board. It's actually going to be used for comboing. So, You don't go straight into Junk Speeder. Again, we're going to synchro into Excel Stardust to make the Junk Speeder off of that with Jet Synchron plus Griffin. Excel and Jet Synchron both activate. I really like doing Excel Stardust as Chainlink 1, just in case they were saving Gamma for that. But now that we have we have Junk Servant in hand, and then now we're going to use Excel effects, summon out the Stardust from the extra deck, put it in the EMZ to give yourself the room in the main zone, and then now we can synchro Jet Synchron and the token for the Junk Speeder. Beautiful. Love to see it. Gonna special out our 4 tuners here. Stardust Synchron will proc, adding the Stardust Illumination. Now we can synchro the Stardust Synchron and Stardust Dragon in order to make Crimson Dragon. Definitely going to, again, put this in the EMZ. Gotta make sure you have that room in the main zone. Now, Junk Servant can only be specialed while you control a Junk Monster, so we would want to special while we control Junk Speeder. And then now, as you can see, we can go into the Hyper Librarian. From there, next I like to go into Omega. This is to, again, mostly clear up room in the main monster zone. That is the biggest thing to keep in mind when comboing with this deck. Not even necessarily following a dedicated combo line. A lot of the time you don't. Inspector Borders will be banished there. But making sure that you have enough room in your main monster zone is so important. Alright, so we rumble back to the Stardust Dragon. That way when we Illumination, we can special summon the trail, right? Now I can sync Assault Synchron and Stardust Dragon into the Baron de Fleur. Get the draw off the Hyper Librarian. Going to Crimson Dragon, putting back the Baron and summoning out Bestial Dispater. Once again in the EMZ to save on space. Alright, Dispater F is going to bring back the Omega. As mentioned before, this is going to be the second of our 3 hand rips. This is another Omega effect here. This time we took the Grave of the Super Ancient Organism, I think is what that card's called. Alright, I'm going to special the Assault Synchron in my hand. It's often at this point the combo line where things get a lot more freeform and just based on whatever you drew off of Hyper Librarian. That's why I don't know if I could make a dedicated combo guide for this deck, but Charge Warrior is going to give us an additional draw, additional to the one Hyper Librarian gives us, and we also get the Stardust token. Now I'm going to tribute the Charge Warrior for Synchron, bringing back Trail off its effect, and then now I can go for a 9, and then here is Trishula. Unfortunately, the way that I did this, and maybe I could have done this slightly differently, but the way that I played this out, I'm actually not able to make Crimson Dragon, which normally you would want to do. Because see, normally I use Synchro Rumble to bring back Rev Synchron here, and sync it with Trishula, and that's how I make the second Crimson Dragon, or Crimson Dragon again, you know what I mean. But in this case, I did have to use the Rumble for Stardust Dragon, so, yeah, I don't know if... Well, because even if I had access to... Yeah, because see, this comes back as level 1 off its own effect. I need to bring it back off of the Rumble. I think I could have also played out my Stardust stuff a little bit better to go for Crimson Dragon more easily. But anyway, opponent does have the Raw Sphere mode here. But thankfully, the Assault Synchron lets us bring back Bestial Dispater. And that's pretty much all they got here. So that could have been pretty bad pretty quickly, but at the same time, given that our opponent's on Runic Stun, or just Stun in particular, I didn't know that it was Runic at this point, but given that they're on Stun, there's not as much you can do to threaten an already established ward as opposed to stopping one from developing, right? So I wasn't super concerned. Omega gives them their stuff back here, but that's fine, it just means I win this turn, or have to win this turn, which we more than likely will, so I'll send off the Sphere mode for another Diabel, setting the OSS, which doesn't have any targets left. And then mostly just kind of spinning my wheels here before I try to swing in for lethal. Just trying to figure out if I can potentially clear off some of these back row, because I am a little apprehensive about Mirror Force. Opponent flipped up Synchro Zone way too early, IMO, because I now am free to use all this information to my advantage here. Gonna go for the Omega effect. So that went by kind of quickly. You may be wondering why Omega and Baron are coming back out here, or how that's possible. Well, what I did was I activated Omega's Graveyard effect, which takes itself and another card in either graveyard and shuffles them back into the deck. The other card I picked was the Baron de Fleur in my own graveyard, right? So then I was able to synchro my onboard Red Synchron and Diabel Star for Omega, then normal summon Ash Blossom and sync that with the other Diabel for Baron de Fleur. So, Yeah, the other face down card ended up being, what, Smiting Storm? Yeah, I'm just going to negate that, because I know the 2 cards in hand are Inspector of Border and Grave of the Super Ancient Organism. And Synchro Zone. Opponent could not have had a worse floodgate in this particular circumstance, but there we go. Alright, that is going to wrap it up. So, yeah, you know, I say that's a typical turn 1 combo line. It kind of is for the most part, but also, like I said before, every turn 1 combo line is going to play out slightly differently just based on what you open and what the circumstances of, you know, the board state or whatever are. But a typical enough Synchron game to start us off with. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at the next one. Okay, so, oh, I didn't show the deck beforehand. It's whatever, it's not that big of a deal, but this was a weird game. We're up against like a Horus Yubel deck that actually let us go first. Like, they chose to go second, but they didn't really seem like they don't have that many board breakers. I don't know if this was like, maybe they were recently playing Tenpai and they like misclicked or something. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to try to lead off with Swell World, but our opponent's going to have an Ash Blossom for that. So, given our current hand, that doesn't really mean I can full combo here, but I do still have some potential. So, I actually think I misplayed here a little bit. Well, I guess not necessarily. I think what I should have done, though, is maybe, I was thinking about this, like, after the fact. Because I'm like, what if I had Fateful Effects to pitch the Stardust Synchron, and then brought back, well, but that wouldn't really accomplish much of anything. Because I'd still have to tribute a monster to get it on board. I was wondering if maybe I missed out on an extra body by normal summoning Stardust Synchron, but I actually don't think that's the case. Anyway, I'm going to use the Griffin Rider effect, as well as the Dracoback, of course, and then I'm going to pass here, because our opponent, as you saw before, Ash Blossomed, and like, I could go into an 8, I could go into like a Omega and hand rep if I wanted to, but then I lose out on my Omni negate, and I think I value the Omni a little higher than random hand rep, because the Omni you can control what you're countering. So yeah, they normal D-Lotus, and then now they're going for the Gruesome Grave Squirmer. I'm going to max in response to the Grave Squirmer, and then they're going to use the Ash Blossom. I elected not to use my Griffin Rider here, because if it's between stopping the Ash Blossom to let my Maxi resolve, or stopping their plays altogether by using it on D-Lotus, I'd rather try to stop their plays altogether. Now, there is no guarantee that this will be a full stop to their play, but I decided to take a risk here, and go for that line anyway, because our opponent is going to be left with no other cards on the field besides Grave Squirmer, 2 cards in hand. They've already used their normal summon. They're on so finite amount of resources that I really think that Griffin Rider on the D-Lotus is the way to go here. Also, I don't want to wait for a Yubel monster, because then they can access Phantom if that Yubel monster gets in the graveyard. And sure enough, they end up conceding right there. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of the time you are going to get hand trapped, but you know, when I say that you have plays through hand traps, there are some hands where you actually can, like, full combo through a hand trap anyway. That's not even uncommon. But having plays can even mean just setting up the Omni Negate of the Griffin Rider. And that might not seem like a lot, and it's not. But, like, when you factor that your opponent's going to be 1 card down because they use the hand trap, and you have an Omni, and you have, like, a hand trap of your own, that's not an unwinnable position by any stretch of the I mean, we did it here. Not an unwinnable situation to be in by any stretch of the imagination. It's not at all difficult to scrape out a win through just a handful of interactions, as long as you time them well, of course. But anyway, we have one more duel we're going to check out. Let's finish off with that one. And our final opponent here is going to be on what appears to be a fairly standard Vanquish Soul deck. VS being another deck that I haven't returned to in quite some time, have I? Well, no, not necessarily true. I did it for the No Extra Deck event, but like, meh, you know, that's an event. That's a festival. Not the same as Rank Battle, so. Winning the coin flip, taking the first turn yet again here. We are going to be leading off with the Fateful before we activate Rite of Armistier. And opponent's going to chain D-Shifter. So D-Shifter, not ideal. Of course, we do have a good amount of graveyard interaction. But the main reason I wanted to show this game is to show you what you can potentially do even under a D-Shifter. As you can see, my attempt to go for the Griffin Rider here was not successful. So we're going to have to improvise to come up with some interaction for this board. I'm going to Bonfire for the Poplar. I will then activate the Poplar's effect to special summon. Oh, but also the Ash Blossom, the wrong adventure effect, that's right. Because they hit the effects to add the equip spell, but I can still add Griffin Rider here, so... Now you'll notice that in order to add the Griffin Rider, I actually banished the original Sinful Spoils. I actually don't have any issue doing that here, because our opponent has used Shifter, which means I can't use OSS this turn anyway. And yeah, you might think like, oh, but maybe you'll need it for the follow-up turn. Although that is a possibility, my main concern is pushing through my opponent's first turn and then worrying about what I can do for follow-up, well, on the follow-up turn. That's not always going to be the case. A lot of the time, of course, you prefer to plan out your turn ahead, your next turn ahead, but sometimes you don't have that luxury. This is kind of one of those game states where you don't really have that luxury. So, plus I definitely need all my other cards. I want a normal summon Reborn Tengu, and then Special Assault Synchron, and then I can sync for 7, and this will let me go for an FA Dawn Dragster. Also, Tengu does summon another copy, even if banished. So, as you can see, for playing through a Shifter, and also our opponent having an Ash Blossom on top of that, this is not a bad board to end on. And this is the kind of thing I was talking about at the end of that last replay there, right? Where, you know, I talk about having plays through Disruption. And again, you might envision us going into a full combo, right? But when I say we have plays through Shifter, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about, right? And it might not look like a lot, but a Spell Trap Negate and an Omni Negate into 4 cards, if timed well, is often enough to push through our opponent's stuff. Okay, so here, I want to talk about using Griffin Rider against this Magnum Hut. You might be thinking, Hex, what are you doing? Griffin Rider on Magnum Hut again in Vanquish Soul? That's an awful point to negate. And true, I wouldn't have used that here if I'd known I was up against Vanquish Soul. But, you know, I see Shifter and Ash Blossom and then a Magnum Hut. My first thought, reasonably enough, is going to be Tenpai. So that's why I activated Griffin Rider here. My thought process was I don't want them to summon the Magnum Hut to then search a Tenpai Dragon and have guaranteed plays. So I'll negate and destroy this now. Of course, like I said, we are actually up against Vanquish Soul, but... yeah, I still thought it was Tenpai here. Even if I knew it was Vanquish Soul, I'd probably still let this Prosperity go through. But yeah, they end up finding the Xiaolong off of this. Now, there was Raisin and Rhoda in there, which of course means they already have the Raisin in hand. Raisin's going to activate. I'll get in my Fateful Adventure effect, because there's literally no reason not to. Do a little bit of deck thinning, grab that Draco back as they go to grab the Heavy Borger. Now, Raisin can reveal the Xiaolong and the Borger, which means it can pop my Dawn Dragster here. Unfortunate, but we're fine in the grand scheme of things. Especially in Xiaolong, moving to battle. Here they choose to battle over the Tengu, and then the Tengu again. And I'm really glad they did that, because I just searched the Draco back, and I'm very much looking to use it to bounce stuff on the next turn. That's also, that's also why I put Tengu in attack mode. I special summoned Tengu in attack mode on purpose here, hoping my opponent would be drawn to attack it and deal a little bit of damage, and hoping they would not hit my token, which I would be able to use on the Draco back with for the follow-up. Plus, here I have the potential to also set up Griffin Rider again. So, little decisions like that might seem completely innocuous, but again, I put my Reborn Tengu in attack mode on purpose, and I am very glad I ended up doing that. Rev Synchron is a literal perfect top deck here, because Rev Synchron plus the Adventure setup is a full Junk Speeder setup too. With the Baron for the installation, because as you can see, I can normal the Rev Synchron after specialing Griffin Rider, go for the Barrel and Deflare. Now I can special Rev Synchron off of its effect. Now it's level 1, and then Rev Synchron plus token is going to be Junk Speeder. Here I opted to use the Draco back first, that way I could get, you know, some amount of interaction in. I'm going to Baron, negate, and destroy the Vanquisher, which was a little bit risky because we technically don't know the last card in our opponent's hand, but the Xiaolong reveals it to be Cashier Rise Heart, so I'm like completely fine here. Yeah, they're going to use the Xiaolong to turn my Baron to defense mode to try to not die this turn, and that actually does go quite a ways for them not dying this turn. As does them getting to special out the Borger and Xiaolong here, but, and now that I know especially that the last card is not a hand trap, I feel very comfortable going into the Junk Speeder here. We did mill our second Assault Synchron, unfortunately, off of the Rev Synchron effect earlier, so that's why we couldn't special it here, but... Yeah, I actually did find with my current board state that I had a little bit of difficulty setting up lethal here. I wanted to use the Defense Mode Baron as Synchro material, so I went for Crimson Dragon this way. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I think that might have been the decision point that stopped me from being able to OTK here necessarily, but... Gonna go for the Stardust here and then sync for 5, making the Hyper Librarian. Assault Synchron gets to bring back the Excel. Then I'm going to Rumble, actually for the Jet Synchron here in order to make Shen Shen. Because I really didn't have anything else to make here. Again, I feel like I could have played this better to actually make a more impactful board. Maybe. I feel like I could have. I tried to do some level adjusting here in order to go for the Dissipator. Oh, and you know what? I also misplayed here because I was like, oh, I made Dissipator, so I don't really have a Crimson Dragon, you know, level 10 target. Otherwise, I could go for lethal here. Totally forgetting about Savior Star Dragon. I definitely should have made that here and just swung in for lethal. Well, no, it wasn't even that I forgot about it. I was just so one-track mind on, yeah, then I can make Savior on the opponent's draw phase and I'll have an Omni. But again, I could have just made it during that battle phase and won. Either way, we are going to walk away with the win, but could have had it a little bit sooner there. Anyway, that'll do it for these games and this video. Thank you, as always, for watching. I super appreciate your viewership. That's going to do it for this one, so let us move now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's, again, free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.